Corey, I think you'd agree. Like, you're not a fit for everyone. I'm not a fit for everyone. I'm okay with that. I'm going to weed out and kind of self-eliminate the people who aren't a fit for me and don't jive with me. And that's cool because there's someone else out there who is a fit for them. And I think that's the beautiful thing about business and the capitalist world that we live in. But we just have to remember, with such an increase in others using automation, everyone who's receiving your message or your invitation has their little antenna and radar up, and they're discerning whether or not you're worth it to add to their network, which is a pretty coveted space.
I'm working with a team right now that I feel like is just absolutely perfect for social media. They're at an employee firm. They have no way to differentiate themselves on social media whatsoever. Just having the ability to show who they are, who they want to serve, how they're different is just truly going to take their business to the next level.
Sometimes just the term LinkedIn turns a lot of people off because they assume it's just another social media platform. I hear multiple times every single week, I'm not a social media person, or I really don't like social media. At the end of the day, the way that I teach about LinkedIn and speak about it as a platform is that it's simply an entry point for conversation. Are we building our network and adding people to it and bringing people in who we're curious to have a conversation with? Are we nurturing our networks and relationships to stay top of mind? Because anybody who is on staff who has a LinkedIn footprint is impacting you and your firm's success in client acquisition. We really need to raise the tide and raise the visibility of the rest of the team. What I'm suggesting is, if they are on the platform, are they reflecting your brand's story and reputation and mission and values, or do they look the part? All these little details matter. These little opportunities create confidence in our prospects. Hey, I know that we were in the running. We were really close to not getting this, but you went with us. Why did you go with us? This is a big decision. And he goes, well, our team looked all of you guys up online, and you guys looked more professional and buttoned up and like you had your acts together. Yeah. And so my client said, well, what do you mean you looked us up online? He goes, LinkedIn. We looked all of you guys up on LinkedIn, and you guys looked so sharp. You looked the part.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today. I really appreciate it. There's a lot of financial advisors that I speak to, both in the employee world, in the independent world, that are really interested in growing through social media marketing, whether they're at a firm that doesn't really allow them a lot of flexibility in this area, and maybe they're just more curious about what's possible out there, or they have the capabilities and they're just looking to get started. It could be really hard to get started on the right path. And this episode's really just designed to help you get the most out of your efforts without spinning too many wheels. So today on the podcast, we have Lindsey McMillion Stemann and she's the founder principal of McMillion Consulting. It's a firm that's been helping clients win on LinkedIn by boosting credibility, building connections, and driving revenue for almost 10 years now. So Lindsey, I really appreciate you hopping on today.
Oh, so glad to be here, and just love the message that you're putting out there, and just taking off the lenses of, the different elements of owning your own practice, transitioning to a new team. You're really bringing a lot of value. And I've actually shared your podcast with several advisors in my network who have found it really helpful.
I appreciate it. Keep it coming. Thank you very much.
You got it.
But before we get started, if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you started this company, how you came up with the thought.
Yeah, well, first of all, if we can, Corey, I think it's helpful for people to know that you and I've known each other since our days back at Clemson University, which is important because we got reconnected through LinkedIn, which is just a testament to relationships that any of us have had for a number of years. We can use tools and platforms like LinkedIn to stay in touch, to nurture, to get back in touch. So I venture to say we wouldn't be sitting here today had it not been for this powerful platform of LinkedIn. So nice little fun personal story there. So yeah, I mean, I've been in sales my whole career. I mean, even before launching my business, I, have been on a lot of podcasts, and I'm a professional speaker, and part of being in that in that seed and that light is telling your story. And the reality is, Corey, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 6 years old, selling boiled hot dogs and country time lemonade on the end of my street. So it was in my destiny. And then since then, I've done all of these different assessments and just made an amazing game-changing connection this past week. And he's like, Lindsey, you're destined for entrepreneurship. So just don't think that you're ever going to do anything else. I'm like, okay, well, that's a good thing because that's the seat I'm sitting in right now. But I went from selling custom manufacturing, Corey, to working for a SaaS software as a service startup, selling to big consumer brands. And like I said, I've been a professional speaker and have spoken to more than 10,000 people at this point and made a lot of impact. My team and I have taken more than 1,000 clients through my 5-step proven process to build their confidence in this online place, online presence, and help them make more money and attract better talent. So it's been a lot of fun. I mean, the truth is, as it comes to LinkedIn, I have gone before all of my clients. So even before doing what I've been doing for the last 12, 13 years, I myself have had tremendous success in using LinkedIn as a revenue generating tool.
And I mean, with a name like McMillion, obviously you were born for entrepreneurship. You didn't even have to take those tests, but
That's right. That's right. It's so funny. My husband, we've been together 19 years, and I did take his last name, Stemann, but my maiden name, as you mentioned, is McMillion. And you're starting your own business, and I submitted my paperwork to start the company, and I had this like, oh crap moment, and my husband's like, what? What happened? He's thinking I didn't file something correctly, and I said, I didn't even ask you if you were okay if I called my company McMillion Consultant. He goes, hold on a second, turns his phone around. And at that point, we'd only been together 10 years. And he said, I was still in his phone all that time later, Corey, as Mac, as you know, that's my nickname, Mac McMillion, which is still in his phone almost 20 years later. So he's like, I'm cool. McMillion's a pretty amazing last name. So it's McMillion Consulting. We'll take it.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So for advisors looking to get into the LinkedIn world, whether like they can't do it at their firm right now, or they're just looking to get started at a firm that they can to increase their presence, like how can you describe what a big opportunity set is on LinkedIn? Like how would you explain that to them?
Well, I think that sometimes just the term LinkedIn turns a lot of people off because they assume it's just another social media platform. I hear multiple times every single week, I'm not a social media person, or I really don't like social media. And at the end of the day, business has always been social in some capacity, whether it's face to face, over Zoom, over the phone. And so when we take and then the other thing I would say, Corey, is this idea of technology and people really having some fear around technology. At the end of the day, the way that I teach about LinkedIn and speak about it as a platform is that it's simply an entry point for conversation. Your goal is still to get offline, just like you and I did. We reconnected on LinkedIn, but then what did we do? We scheduled a phone call to catch up and things that we would not have been able to do in a platform, we were able to accomplish in a phone call in a human touch experience. And so the other thing that a lot of that I hear often is, oh, well, my network's not on LinkedIn. And I'd say, well, tell me a little bit about your client base. And usually I'm working with, successful advisors, specifically in, financial services space. And they will say, oh, yeah, well, they're high net worth individuals. Well, guess what? Where do high net worth individuals professionally show up on the internet? It's called LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They're the C-suite executives, they're the business owners, and they've got a footprint on LinkedIn. And so, with 9 out of 10 financial advisors being on the platform, if you're one of the 10 that's not showing up, you're missing a big market share for sure.
I found my financial advisor on LinkedIn. I had questions, I didn't have the answers, and I literally felt like my advisor was talking to me. Like every question that he kind of answered that his clients are going through on videos, I was like, I'm literally answering asking the same exact questions like to myself right now, and we wound up building a relationship, and it happened that way. So I always talk about how powerful a tool it is, but I mean that's just another real life example of getting connected.
Yeah, I mean, I've got countless stories. One that comes to mind that's similar to yours is I was working with a wealth management advisor, has a fee-based practice, and he has been in the business. At this point, it was about 17 years. And transparently wasn't really interested in learning how to use LinkedIn, but knew that the way he looked on the platform was not a reflection of what his clients experience when they work with him and his team. It was really, he had, I mean, on a confidence scale, he was, below zero. So we took him through this five-step process I alluded to earlier. And within just a couple of weeks, he gives me a call, and I usually become great friends with my clients after working with them. And he calls me and he's really excited. He goes, Lindsey, I've got such an awesome story to tell you. And I'm like, yeah, Marty, what's going on? He goes, listen, I had been chasing down this C-suite executive for about 6 months. She wasn't taking my calls, my emails, nothing. And I finally get a meeting with her and she becomes a client. I'm like, dude, congrats, that's awesome. But Corey, in my head, I'm thinking like, well, why is he calling me? Like I didn't teach him how to use the tool, but like I know that, he certainly looks better on this thing called LinkedIn. And so I let him continue and he goes, yeah, so, she's become a client, we've become fast friends. And I asked her, why us? Why our firm? He's like, you're so successful. I've got to imagine you've got advisors just knocking at your door every week. And she goes, oh, you wouldn't believe. She said, but the truth is, you were the person in real life who I researched online. And he goes, what do you mean online? And she goes, your LinkedIn profile. Like kind of flippantly, like, duh, Marty, like your LinkedIn profile. He goes, so Lindsay, I'm calling to thank you. He said, because not only did I have no idea how much just the way I look on this tool through my profile is impacting people's not just decision to take my call, but to actually become my client because she might very well be my biggest case this year. And so then I laughed. I said, well, I got to increase my rates, Marty, because that's a perfect story.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, right? Is that it's a place where we can show up as our authentic selves. I like to think of it as, and sometimes people hear that phrase, authentic self. Well, what does that even mean? Well, it's this idea where we get to bridge the gap between and expedite the rapport and the bonding and rapport process of selling. We get to expedite that because our job is to bring your voice to life. So that Corey, when you meet with that advisor who is in this, really pivotal time in their lives and careers of considering moving all of their clients and their everything. I mean, that is a game-changing decision that you are playing a big role in. We would just want to make sure that we're telling that story and we're bringing it to life so that when they meet you, they feel like, oh, I already know Corey.
Yeah.
No, that's the idea.
And like when I read your LinkedIn profile, I feel like you're talking directly to me. You're not using a bunch of jargon. You're not using, like a really, I mean, it's like real speak like me and you would be talking right now to each other. I just noticed that about your LinkedIn profile. But what do you think some of the biggest mistakes besides not being on LinkedIn or like not being active that advisors are making on
Uh,
LinkedIn?
How much time do we have? Okay, so here's the bucket answer, the high level, and then we'll dig into a couple of examples. The short answer, Corey, is assumptions. The financial advisors who are making the biggest mistakes on the platform is that they're assuming LinkedIn is the red easy button. And I'll be specific. I'm a huge fan of delegation. So I've been a strategic coach, Dan Sullivan, member of program for entrepreneurs for years, and I've learned a lot about delegation. And you cannot delegate 100% of your LinkedIn presence because nobody knows your relationships better than you do. Now, I still will consult and coach and equip my clients with how to leverage their team members, but you still have to. It's still your account. It's still your reputation. I also see advisors thinking that, oh, well, I mean, I don't know about you, Corey, but do you get invitations from people you don't know?
All the time. Yeah.
All the time.
And
Same. Me too. I'm sure everyone else listening is like, oh, it's so annoying. Or what's worse is that at least if somebody reaches out to us and they do the pitch in the invitation, we can filter them out pretty quickly. But it's the sneaky ones where we say, I am interested in connecting with you, and then the immediate follow-up is a sales pitch. It's so slimy and nasty. Well, unfortunately, that's usually happening because, and we'll again speaking to our advisor audience, advisors are thinking this red easy button is, oh, there's a tool out there. It's called automation, and I can plug it into my LinkedIn account and blast my network with all these invitations. Well, it's not that that approach doesn't work. And you and I've had some offline conversations about this. It's not that it doesn't work, because I have seen it work in some instances. But we just have to remember, with such an increase in others using automation, everyone who's receiving your message or your invitation has their little antenna and radar up, and they're discerning whether or not you're worth it to add to their network, which is a pretty coveted space. So we're seeing people being a lot more discerning in who they add to their networks. So what I would just say is automation is not enough. Automation alone is not enough. The last thing I'll add, and again, just in the interest of time, is thinking that posting content from your broker dealer, your corporate, I would call it corporate content, home office content, is enough. It's not.
yeah.
Again, big fan of delegation, leveraging technology. I know a lot of advisors out there have required compliance platforms where they have to connect their LinkedIn accounts to a platform in order to post content. That's fine. In fact, I love that. Number one, it keeps us honest. Number two, there's usually a scheduling feature in there so we can get ahead on content. But please don't expect that only posting pre-created content from your corporate or home office is enough. People want to know who the real Corey is. People want to know who the real Lindsey is and what we're interested in and how else we're bringing value, so that, again, they feel like they know us before they've had a chance to meet us.
Hey, breaking in real quick. I really hope you're enjoying this episode and finding my YouTube channel of value. If you're a high-performing financial advisor that can use somebody as a guide or a resource to explore all your transition options out there in the marketplace, I'm a non-biased, independent transition consultant that can help make this process so much easier for you. And another plus, it costs absolutely nothing to work with me. If you want to have a conversation, please feel free to text, call, email, DM me. My contact information is all over this episode, and I'll let you get back to it. I think a big mistake too, I talk with a lot of financial advisors that are maybe making a move from an employee firm to an independent firm. And I talk to them about all the benefits of digital marketing. And they always say, Corey, I already see like so many people doing that on my feed. Am I just going to get lost in the crowd of all the people? And I'm like, they just need to understand that like not everyone's feed looks like that. Your feed looks like it looks like a bunch of financial advisors because you're probably friends with a bunch of financial advisors, but your screen's not the same as a potential client's screen, and you truly can still differentiate yourself in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. That's such a great point when I hear people say, oh, LinkedIn's full of garbage. Well, listen, truth be told, it is an internet software tool. So it is not perfect. Are there advertisements on LinkedIn? Yes, there are. Now, there's a premium subscription where there's no advertising, so that's another conversation for another day. But on the free LinkedIn, yeah, it's a version of the internet. So there is going to be some level of not my favorite thing. But if we can just understand and appreciate that, one, there are parts of the LinkedIn experience that we can control so that we can mitigate the garbage, and two, yes, exactly to your point. If you see garbage on your news feed, it means that you're connected to people who are posting garbage. So, right, it's discerning, okay, who is actually in my network and are they the right people? Are they my prospects? Are they my clients? Because Corey, if you're not connected to your clients, guess who will be? Your competition. period. So we have to think about who we're connected to. I think the way I like to distill it is if we think of an umbrella and our presence, our online presence being the umbrella, underneath that umbrella is our network. Are we building our network and adding people to it and bringing people in who we're curious to have a conversation with? Are we nurturing our networks and relationships to stay top of mind? Because again, in the financial advising space, it is such an intimate relationship that these your advisors, our listeners, are initiating with their clients, and so it takes time. Even when we're referred, my business is 100% referral as well. Like most of my advisor clients, guess what? We get to control the narrative because those we actually, and you and I chatted about this before, you and I don't actually know, neither do our advisors, how many referrals we're actually getting.
Mhm.
All we know is the number of people who've decided to return our phone call, right? The people who are actually contacting us. So what we have to think about is, are we controlling the narrative, specifically in this LinkedIn platform and space, so that we're increasing our likelihood of them saying yes through their own due diligence and vetting process? So it's under this umbrella is your of presence is your network. We've touched on the profile. And then also engaging. We have to show that we genuinely care about the people in our network. Engagement, that word gets thrown around a lot in terms of LinkedIn. Some specifics mean commenting on your prospects and clients' content. Content on LinkedIn takes an effort. It just does. Even if you're using AI to support and ideate with as a collaborative tool, it takes effort. So showing your genuine interest, not to mention that LinkedIn's a real-time news feed in terms of what's happening to people from job changes and promotions and just career changes in general. You better believe that I want to be the first one to pick up the phone and call my client or prospect when they get that promotion or change jobs. And how did I find that out? Oh, I leveraged this little tool called LinkedIn to feed me that real-time information and data.
I think the most powerful thing too that I've experienced that I try to tell financial advisors, the really cool thing about LinkedIn is once someone reaches out to you, they've probably been following you for months and months. They're slowly looking at your content, they're slowly looking at your profile, and it's really interesting. It's almost like they've 95% made the decision that they're already gonna work with you, prior to reaching out, which I think is amazing as well. I'm working with a team right now that I feel like is just absolutely perfect for social media. They're at an employee firm. They have no way to differentiate themselves on social media whatsoever. They came from a medical sales background, know a ton of doctors, nurses, et cetera, in their local community, and just having the ability to show who they are, who they want to serve, how they're different is just truly going to take their business to the next level. And I'm super,
Wow.
super excited for them. That'll
Absolutely.
be that'll be a referral to you for sure.
There we go. I'd love to help. Because I hear so many advisors, what they're good at. They're great at relationship building. They're some of them are more analytical and technical, so they're really craftsmen and women in their industry. But many of them really struggle bringing that personality and story to life. And that's where, just like we as consumers outsource our financial advising to an expert called a financial advisor, that's where myself and my team come into play, where we are the outsourced experts to bring that story to life. We know the ins and outs. Of course, we want to know what your compliance policy is so that we're adhering to that. But I would say the majority of the time, of course, the firms that allow their advisors to be on LinkedIn, these advisors actually, Corey, have way more latitude than they even realize.
Yeah.
As long as we're not saying anything promissory, chances are you're going to be able to say it. If we know that, oh, we've got to put our disclosure, great. There's plenty of places to showcase that. So we're actually taking the pain of, man, Lindsay, I have no idea how to talk about myself or bring my story to life. I don't even know what that means. Or, I know I need to be relevant and stay top of mind, but I don't know how to do that. Those are the things that we're hearing where we get to be the bridge to close that gap through the profile transformer, which is that proven process.
So do you feel like what's the bare minimum you think a financial advisor should do if they want to take a step into like LinkedIn? Like what's the absolute bare minimum that they should have?
So I love this question. It's really interesting because I kind of want to punt it back to you a little bit. I mean, when you think about the clients you're working with, are any of them trying to do the bare minimum of anything? Like to me, I hear the term bare minimum and I'm like, so you're shooting for below average. Hmm? Like is that really the attitude and the mindset that you want to bring to the clients who, are giving you their assets and entrusting these investments and financial decisions that could change their lives? Like I would guess the answer is no. So I think it's not looking at bare minimum because my guess is your listeners are not trying to be mediocre in anything they're doing in life. Is that fair?
Fair.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I would say what are some of the essential elements? An updated profile picture. Oh my gosh. Like I do this thing in my speaking engagements where it's the Chronicles of the Mugs. And I actually, embarrassingly, right, a little self-deprecating humor, will pull up every single one of my profile pictures from the last 10 years. And Corey, I look a little different every year. I mean, I think I'm aging like fine wine, but the truth is, like, I look a little different, and that's okay. But what that tells me, and what that tells viewers and attendees at these engagements, is that, oh my gosh, like every 12 months, 18 at most, we got to make sure that profile picture is up to date. I'm working with a client right now who's a very successful sales trainer. And he's like, Lindsey, I'm bald and have a goatee. I look the same as I did 10 years ago. And I said, bet, right? Like get that headshot and let's compare them. I'm confident you look a little different. So
Yeah.
so that's like, I mean, again, one of the essential elements. I was on a meeting earlier today, Corey, and one of my great friends, she's a center of influence for me as I am with her, and we were going through each other's networks, and I brought up this person who I was like, gosh, this person is a great candidate. We've got an assessment that we take our clients through because not everyone is a fit for the profile transformer. But this person, I had to believe that being an executive of a multi-billion dollar company, this guy has a pretty good reputation and he's doing some pretty cool things. His profile picture wasn't even publicly visible.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure he has a profile picture. And I'm sure that he has no idea that he's hiding it unintentionally to his network. So we'll just give that to your listeners as one essential element to a successful presence and footprint on this platform.
So yeah, I'd be when I look on LinkedIn all the time, I'll just see, senior vice presidents, investment officer, Wells Fargo advisors, and literally nothing else. Nothing about their interests or who they helped or where they came from
You
or
just get
or
lost in the
absolutely anything.
shuffle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Corey, the other thing too, let's just be a little technical for a moment. All of us know this internet thing called Google. Google is all driven on keywords. Well, guess what? LinkedIn is too. So people may not know they're looking for Corey Whalen or Lindsey McMillion Stemann, but they're looking for experts like us. So just like your advisors who are tuning in, they're looking for a professional like you. But are you increasing your chances of coming up in a search result? Because Corey, they don't know your name yet. They don't know my name yet, but they're looking for people who have our expertise. So making sure that profile and that presence and the content we're posting is on this platform is essential because it actually increases our searchability and opportunity to be found when someone hasn't met us yet, but they're looking for a professional with expertise like us.
I've really noticed personally as well. I've been doing it for probably 6 years now. Not only do I have people reaching out that want to work with me, but there are people that like relate to me a lot. Like I thoroughly enjoy working with everyone that reaches out to me. I mean, literally a week ago, someone reached out to me and they're like, Corey, I heard they didn't like talk about my videos at all. They're just like, I saw you like golf. And we wound up having a conversation and it worked that way. Like people want to work with people that have the same values, that they respect, that they find is likable. And if you don't have all of those things out there, you're just not gonna be able to attract people.
Well, and you're making it so much harder on yourself.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like if you everything you just shared, oh, the masters and like for me, oh, do you like orchids? Well, honestly, orchids aren't even my favorite flower, but they're from my surprise tiki birthday party that my husband threw, right? Like there's a whole story behind it. So, I think that when we're thinking about how to show up online, the more real we can be and approachable and accessible, the experience that people have with us when they do decide to work with us, the more we can translate that or showcase that online or through videos, through conversations, through podcasts, through interviews, we're just making our lives a lot easier because people are getting to vet us and experience us before they actually say yes. And Corey, I think you'd agree. Like you're not a fit for everyone. I'm not a fit for everyone. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
I'm totally okay because guess what? Like I'm gonna weed out and kind of self-eliminate the people who aren't a fit for me and don't jive with me, and that's cool because there's someone else out there who is a fit for them. And I think that's the beautiful thing about business and the capitalist world that we live in.
100%. So, how are you working with your clients right now? If someone wanted to come to you and work with you, like how are you helping them with this LinkedIn puzzle?
Yeah, well, we start with a discovery conversation. It's really, understanding where they're at today, where they feel like they want to get, but they don't know how to get there. It's being transparent, and it's interesting. Sometimes I'll have, an inbound inquiry and somebody will say, I need the profile transformer. And I'll look them up and I'm like, really? Like, your profile looks pretty good. Like, I don't really think you're a candidate for this. But then I'll say, help me understand why you feel like you're a candidate for this. And I'll learn that they are transitioning firms, but it hasn't gone public. I'll learn that they are rebranding and renaming their practice. I'll learn, right? There's so many nuances that, might not be publicly visible. So then we get to like work through the process of, okay, what does this look like to transform your online presence so that we're expediting that bonding and rapport, attracting the prospects and maybe even candidates if they're growing their teams to them. And so that's like I said, typically through the profile transformer, Corey. And then I'm a professional speaker, so I'm often hired to speak at trade associations, at annual meetings. I love speaking at those bookends of the year where we're launching into the new year and have new goals and quotas, or closing out the year and celebrating the wins. And then really challenging the attendees to say, okay, and what's the one thing? How are we going to move the needle? I'm a big, big fan of making all of my teaching whenever I'm in front of an audience practical so that they can go take action, and making it accessible. Believe it or not, even though LinkedIn is my area of expertise, I'm not a super tech savvy person, but I figured out and cracked the nut on how to use this tool as the human tool, and have helped my clients generate millions of dollars in their businesses.
That's awesome. McMillion making millions.
That's
I love
right.
that.
Absolutely.
So if let's talk about a couple of your success stories with financial advisors. Can we just go through a few of those? I know you've
Sure.
had some pretty good ones for me in the past.
Yeah, well, the one with Marty's one of my favorite, because I wasn't teaching him and his team like how to fish. We really just made sure that he had the right fishing gear, and he attracted his highest paying client that year. So that was pretty incredible. There's so many. Here's what I'll say, because you asked the question earlier about, where should they start? And the way I like to think about, I often get the question of, like, Lindsay, what kind of content should I be posting? And Corey, you might be in a position you're not, thankfully, but let's just say hypothetically that out of five, one being abysmal and embarrassing, five being crushing it in terms of the way you look on LinkedIn. you might come to me with the wrong question. It's just misplaced. You might say, Lindsay, I don't know what I should be posting on LinkedIn. And you're sitting here with a mediocre profile that's on the one level and not a reflection of your reputation at all. So sometimes it's really saying, okay, you know what, we need to start on this, build the foundation. It's like pouring concrete for a house, right? Building the foundation. And then we can get to phase two, which is how do we actually tap this tool productively and effectively so that it becomes profitable? So it can sometimes be more of a layered approach, and that's just yeah a couple of ideas in terms of how to tap the tool. And I think of one of my clients, Randolph, who's up in the DC metro area, Green Arrow Financial. He was a person who was like, teach me how to do all the fishing. I'm like, Randolph, you don't have the right gear yet. So I worked with him and his team, took him and his team through the profile transformer because we also have a team approach. Because that's also, Corey, of the advisors you're working with, what percentage of them have team members, would you say?
90%.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's the thing for the advisors, those 90%, where you might be the lead rainmaker or you might have associate advisors. Anybody who is on staff who has a LinkedIn footprint is impacting you and your firm's success in acquire client acquisition. So I learned several years in, I thought, gosh, I'm only taking care of these frontline leaders, and I'm really kind of leaving everyone else behind. And so what we realized was we really need to raise the tide and raise the visibility of the rest of the team as well, who's already on LinkedIn. I'm not suggesting for those of you listening that if you've got employees who aren't on LinkedIn that they need to be on there. That is not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is if they are on the platform, are they reflecting your brand's story and reputation and mission and values? Or do they look the part? Do they have an updated professional headshot? Are they connected to the company page? Do they have the right branding? All these little details matter because if you don't think these details matter, why would a prospect think that you're going to care about the details of their financial investments with you? So these little opportunities create confidence in our prospects. So Randolph, going back to my story with him, overhauled him and his team. And what he learned, which was an interesting byproduct, Corey, he actually started to earn several of the Forbes recognition, top wealth advisor, and several others that are out there. And he noticed that um, these Forbes employees, or I don't really know how the whole system works, but ultimately he noticed that they were checking him out. He goes, Lindsay, I'm confident now that a big part of why we were getting the yes was not just because of our application and our story, but because of the way we look on LinkedIn. Like I never really realized that that was also going to be a part of us adding credibility to our practice. Is the way we look was impacting us getting these awards. So that might be important to some of the advisors you're working with. Similar story, had another team who um, was this was going to be a not an individual advising client, but it was going to be actually an entire company. And they got the contract. And so my client said to his new client, "Hey, I know that we were in the running. We were really close to not getting this, but you went with us. Why did you go with us? This is a big decision." And he goes, well, our team looked all of you guys up online, and you guys looked more professional and buttoned up and like you had your acts together.
Yeah.
And so my client, similar to Marty, said, well, what do you mean you looked us up online? He goes, LinkedIn. We looked all of you guys up on LinkedIn, and you guys looked so sharp. You looked the part. And this other team, yeah, they presented kind of similar stuff that you did, and same proposal. But then when we took a peek under the hood, which in reality, y'all, is not a peek under the hood, it's publicly visible. They got the gig, they got the contract. So those are just a couple of examples. But when a client tells me, Lindsay, we surpassed 140 billion in AUM this year, and you and your team were a big part of that influence, that's a pretty good compliment.
I love it. There's just so many financial advisors out there with certain firms where maybe there's 20 people in the same town and they literally have no way to differentiate themselves show their personality, how they're unique. And I just think the reason I wanted you to come on, obviously you have a great value proposition, but I just wanted people to understand if you don't have the ability to truly express yourself and show people who you truly are on LinkedIn or your website or anywhere else, you're just missing out on so much opportunity.
It's true. And I'll say that I love that you mentioned the website as well. When we look at, so I'll give a story. There's a wealth advising firm down in Houston, and their website was, they're an independent, totally independent, so they've got a lot of latitude, and their website was very impersonal, no photos of them and their team. And he has a very bespoke practice. I mean, I was blown away by what they do for their clients, who their clients are, and yet their online presence. I mean, he and his team's LinkedIn profiles were, I mean, I have to say, like, just embarrassing
Yeah.
and really shocking. And then their website was impersonal. So what he decided was to engage our team first to overhaul their LinkedIn footprint, get his profile, his company page, give those entities a presence on LinkedIn. And then I referred him to one of our partners to overhaul his website. Now, you go online, whether it's his website or LinkedIn, you can find him in either entry point, and there's a continuity, there's a similarity, and a lot of the work that we did in LinkedIn was able to be transferred to his website, so that wherever people found him and his team, there was a consistency.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Lindsay, if somebody wants to work with you, how do they find you?
Well, gosh, should we just say state the obvious? LinkedIn, my friends, LinkedIn. Yeah. And here's my request. Please tell me that you heard me on Corey's podcast. I'm, as I shared earlier, very discerning and selective of who I add to my network. So click that connect button inside of my profile, add a note, tell me you heard me on Corey's podcast. We'll make it a yes. And if I can help, always happy to hop on a discovery and just curiosity call and see where I can be of help and service.
Awesome. I think you'd be such a great fit for any advisor that wants to dip their toes in, but especially financial advisors that this is totally a new world to them. I just really think you can help some people that are making that huge leap
Yeah.
to maybe independence, and they have all this free reign to just really let themselves, be out there.
Well, and
Um,
even career changers. You mentioned that. I mean,
yeah.
I work with a lot of advisors who are in their, 30s, 40s, 50s, going from industries that have nothing to do with financial services, and they are now taking this big commission-based leap. And they, again, it's being able to bring all of their past experiences and credibility and tie it into how they will and plan to show up, and what their approach is when they're engaging with their clients in this new territory of financial advising. So yeah, absolutely, a great group of folks that we help as well.
It's awesome. I think it's such a good value proposition. I'm so glad we reconnected again on LinkedIn.
That's right.
And I'll put all your contact information at the bottom of the podcast so everyone will have access to it. And Lindsay, thank you so much again.
Thanks, Corey. Great to be with you.